found one. I'm going to try to copy and paste this for you guys and see if you can open it up, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, I thought I found it, and apparently I didn't. Oh, yeah, maybe I did. Okay, I found one. Ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to put it into the public chat, and you guys see if you guys can get to it. Can you guys go to that link?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I've got it on my. Oh, okay. Miss Copier, can you? Okay.
Okay.
We're going to be reading a brief history about Easter Island right now together. So if you've got that document up, open it up and make it as big as possible. I know it's a little blurry. That's what happens with these scanners. They end up looking this way. But does everyone have Lessons of Easter Island in front of them?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to start off reading it, okay? Now, first let me tell you a little bit about why we're reading Lessons of Easter Island that's off the Pacific coast of South America and not really talking about U.S. history. The reason why is, even though it seems like it has nothing to do with it, it's a very good story. The history of Easter Island is a really good way for us to understand how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to look at history. What is the point of studying history for a Muslim? Why should we study history? Why is it important? Why does it interest us? And what is the point that, with what purpose should we Muslims undertake the study of history? In all the things that I've ever read, this story has always stuck out to me as what I finally have understood why history is important to the Muslim person and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to look at the human past. We're going to read this together. This is the first chapter of a book from a man named Clive Ponting. He wrote A Green History of the World. So basically, when he says a green history of the world, whenever you hear something that people are saying, oh, green, nowadays, anytime anyone uses the word green, when they say, oh, is that a green project? Is that a green building? They're talking about something from an environmental perspective. So a green history of the world is talking about an environmental history of the world. So it's talking about people in relation to their environment. This is the first chapter. It's only 7 pages. We're going to go through it together, and he opens up this book with this chapter because he says there's a lesson to be taken from this island and the things that happen to these people on that island, and the things that they do and how their actions have consequences. And it's going to set the stage for the rest of the book. What happens? What happens with human beings and the environment? Okay, does everyone understand that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Halima and Khadija, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read from this, and I'm going to ask you guys to read from it as well. I'm going to read a few paragraphs, and then I'm going to ask Halima or Khadija to read. If there's a word you don't understand, you need to stop me right then and there and say, what does that mean? And I will define it for you. And there's some words I'll just stop and I'll define for you just because I think that you might need to know them. And even if you do know them, that I still would like to, explain to you. Okay? All right? You guys there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Lessons of Easter Island. Easter Island is one of the most remote, which means it's by itself. It's so far away from everybody. Eastern Island is one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth. It's the most furthest away, but it's the most inhabited, meaning that for being so far away from everything else, there are a lot of people. Only some 150 square miles in area, it lies in the Pacific Ocean, 2,000 miles off the west coast of South America, and 1,250 miles from the nearest inhabitable land of Pitcairn Island. At its peak, when it was doing its best, the population was only about 7,000. Yet despite its superficial insignificance, despite the fact, even though it seems like this tiny little island with very few people, the history of Easter Island is a grim warning to the world. Grim meaning serious warning to the world. Let's see what this serious warning is. The Dutch Admiral Roggeveen, on board the Arena, so this Dutch man who was on board this ship called the Arena, was the first European to visit the island on Easter Sunday, 1722. That's why it has the name Easter Island. When he arrived, he found the society in a primitive state. Primitive means it was very basic, with about 3,000 people living in squalid reed huts. Squalid means very rundown, kind of sort of dirty. In squalid reed huts. Reed is a material that you get from these plants that grow around water. So they had made the huts out of those homes, out of those reeds, or caves. They lived either in caves or reed huts, engaged in almost perpetual, constant warfare, and resorting to cannibalism in a desperate attempt to supplement the meager food supplies available on the island. Does everyone know what cannibalism is?
I do. I don't.
Okay. What is cannibalism?
It's when you eat other people.
Yeah, it's when people are eating other people. So on this island, when this European arrives, he finds these people living very primitively and resorting to cannibalism because the food supplies were so scarce that people had to resort to killing each other and eating each other. During the next European visit in 1770, the Spanish nominally annexed the island, but it was so remote, underpopulated, and lacking in resources that no formal colonial occupation ever took place. Basically what that's saying is that the Spanish people came in and annexed. When you annex something, you come in and you take it in and you make it part of your empire or part of your country. But because it was just really not that great of a place, nobody really cared to really go in there, send down armies, and do all the things that they did in other places like the Middle East, India, and stuff like that, in America. There were a few more brief visits in the late 18th century, including one by Captain Cook in 1744. An American ship stayed long enough to carry off 22 inhabitants to work as slaves, killing seals on a certain island off the Chilean coast. The population continued to decline, and conditions on the island worsened. In 1877, the Peruvians removed and enslaved all but 110 old people and children. Eventually, the island was overtaken by Chile and turned into a giant ranch for 40,000 sheep run by a British company, with the few remaining inhabitants confined to one small village. So basically, by the end of the 1800s, this place was completely run down. Nothing really was left of it, and the British and other people that were living in South America were using it as a place so that they could do their own stuff. But it really didn't have any real life stuff to it. What amazed and intrigued the first European visitors was evidence amongst all the squalors, all that poverty, all that dirt, all that, primitiveness and barbarism, was a once flourishing and advanced society. That means that when the Europeans came, they realized people didn't always live this way on this island. Actually, it seemed very flourishing and very advanced. It was really doing very well. Scattered across the island were over 600 massive stone statues, on average over 20 feet high. If you want to look at a picture of these statues, go to this link that I put on the whiteboard. Do you see that link that's right there?
Yeah.
Okay, click on that. Click on that and go to that picture.
Hey Zainab, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you switch the host status to me and then I can bring up these pictures and put them up?
Yes. Okay, how do I do that?
Okay, either, I think you would just click on where it says assistant, and there might be an option that says change to host or something like that.
Make presenter? Can I make you a presenter?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Make me the presenter then.
Alright.
Okay, thanks.
What's happening now?
Okay, let me see.
Alright, so you guys copy and paste that until then, okay?
Okay, go ahead and continue. I'll figure this out, inshallah.
Okay. So did you guys click on that link?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, do you see those pictures? Do you see that picture?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, do you see those large statues? One of them has this big rock on top of its head.
Yeah.
Is that what it looks like? Is that what you have in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what they found. They found these huge, gigantic, on average, 20 feet high. And there were 600 of these scattered all over the island. All right? When anthropologists, we're going to go back to reading it. When an anthropologist is somebody who studies a society, somebody who comes in and looks at how people are doing things, what they feel, what they believe, how they deal with issues, how they deal with families, okay? When anthropologists began to consider the history and culture of Easter Island early in the 20th century, now we know when we say 20th century, we're talking about the 1900s, they agreed on one thing. The primitive people, primitive again meaning basic, simple, living in very basic conditions, not at all advanced. It's the opposite of advanced.